Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about solubility. So, in today's lab, we're going to try to dissolve 4 different substances in water. Solubility is just simply how much water it takes to get each one of these different substances to dissolve. So there are 4 of them. We've got this guy right here is just regular salt. The next test tube has epsom salt in it, which is a kind of granular, chunky kind of salt. The next one we have is sugar. And then the final substance we're going to dissolve today is baking soda. So what we want to do is see how much of each one of these liquids, or well, how much water it takes for each one of these solids to dissolve in the water. So the way we can do that is I have a beaker right here with some water in it. Our measuring tool is going to be the mighty eyedropper. Right? An eyedropper that you don't really probably think very much of is actually a very specific tool. It's designed to hold a specific amount of water. So when I kind of put it in the water and fill it up, a full eyedropper is actually not what you and I normally would consider to be full. It's only about half full, right? But that's by design. You don't want it to go all the way up to that rubber stopper and have different materials stuck in there. We just want the glass touching the liquid. So if I start with our first substance, just plain old-fashioned salt, I'll kind of squirt a whole eyedropper of water into that salt right there. Now obviously, one eyedropper of salt is certainly not going to dissolve all of that. So what we're going to do, our process for the lab right here is, I'm going to stir it for about 10 seconds right here. And then see, did it dissolve, right? And definitely, looking at it, let me see if it'll focus on this for you. It definitely doesn't all dissolve just in one shot. So what we can do is, I'll fill up another eyedropper of water, put it down in there, and then just repeat and stir for about 10 more seconds. And then see, did it dissolve with 2? And I could see definitely not. There's definitely still some in there. So same thing again. Put it in there, stir for about 10 seconds. There's definitely more salt still in there. This is going to take a couple more tries here. This is 3. Nope, still in there. Number 4. Still there, although it's starting to finally go down. 5. Stir a little more. Still going down. This is going to be number 6. Well, let's see. Oh, it's definitely getting smaller. There's just a little bit left in the bottom that I can see there. All right, so it's coming down towards the end. Perhaps 7. I'm guessing maybe 7 or 8. We'll see. Okay, this is 7 tries. And with 7 tries, I don't know if you can see it, but I don't see any more in there. So we're gonna say, I'll write it down here for you. For our first substance, salt, took 7 tries for it. Okay, the next substance is, again, salt, a type of salt, right? Exactly the same amount, 2 grams I measured out for us. It's just, this is epsom salt. So the granules are much, hopefully it's picking it up, they're much bigger, right? So it's much bigger chunks. You can actually see the crystals of salt easily. So the key to this lab is not trying to cheat and think, oh, I'll just put 4 or 5 squirts in the next one, because I knew the last one took 7. This one's probably going to take 7 again, or close to it, hopefully, right? You can't put a whole bunch of squirts in at the very beginning. You've got to do one at a time and follow the same procedures for this lab. You don't want to have a variable where it's messed up and everything because you put a whole bunch in at one time. When I put 1 squirt in, oops, that's a problem. When I put that 1 squirt in and then I mix it for, again, about 10 seconds, it's breaking down all the crystals that are in that salt, just like I did for the other one. So we want to keep it exactly the same, the lab setup, so that it's still going to remain the same. So definitely, just like I expected, one is not going to do it. Well, I got to put my rubber stopper on. So we'll try 2. Stir for about 10 seconds again. Hopefully 8 will do it here, we'll see. Here we go. Okay, I think we're gonna call it with 8 for Epsom salt. All right, so Epsom salt used just a tiny bit more water than just regular salt. So let's write it down. We'll record our data here, 8. All right, so 8 droppers full of water for the salt. Now the next substance we have is sugar, right? So good old-fashioned sugar. What do you think? Is it going to use less water or more water for the sugar to dissolve? I'm going to hypothesize it's going to use less, right? Just because it's sugar, I think it dissolves pretty readily in the water. So if I do 1 dropper worth of water right there and we stir for again a couple seconds. It looks kind of similar to the salt, but it does appear like those sugar crystals are kind of like mixing in better with the water. They're kind of like almost suspended in the water a little bit more than the salt was. So here's number 2. I'm gonna give my arms a workout today. Oh, now definitely, all right, with 4, it's definitely starting to break down those crystals a lot. There's definitely not as much as there was with salt, I don't think. So here we go. It's not really focusing too well. But with 4, I think that's gonna call it right there. I'm gonna say that's, I mean, there are a couple little floaties cruising around, but I think that's about it. All right, so for sugar, our third substance, it only took 4. That definitely is the easiest to dissolve in water. All right, so that leaves our last substance. Again, 2 grams of it. All right, this time it's baking soda. So all 4 substances purposely look fairly similar to each other. They're all white substances and there's not very much of it. So for baking soda, we'll start off once again. 1 dropper full of water. Oh, same problem. I think I picked one that the top isn't very tight. And we'll begin stirring. All right, so if I stir it up, you can tell the baking soda, it's a much finer material than the other 2. All right, it's kind of almost, it actually turned the water almost like, it almost looks like milk, the water that's in there. All right, let me put the stopper back on our eyedropper. All right, dropper full number 2. Here we go. Oh, well, now there's just a tiny, okay, there's a little bit left. Let's go with 13. 13 droppers of water. Okay, hopefully this is it because my arms are tired. Ah, so much work. Stirring and stirring. Should use the electric stir for this. That might work out better, right? Okay. So this is the 13th eyedropper full of water going in our test tube of 2 grams. And yes, there we go. I think we have it. All right, so we're gonna call it 13 for, let me write down, 13 for baking soda. So for our substances, salt, Epsom salt, sugar, and then baking soda over here on the very end. Baking soda definitely stood out among them as far as it's the one that's the hardest to dissolve in the water. Sugar, was it sugar? Oh yeah, sugar, only with 4, was definitely the best or easiest to dissolve in the water. And then the 2 salts was 7 and then 8 were very, very similar, which you would expect because they're both salts. All right, make sure you take the short quiz after watching this so you get all your points.